Our guest speaker this morning is the newly elected Chief Executive of the City of Kingston, who has been in office now for all of 24 days. He most recently served as Assistant City Corporation Counsel here in Kingston, also has his own private law practice, and he follows a very proud tradition of family involvement in local government and public service. His father, Bob, his late brother, TR, serving in capacities in the City of Kingston. Bob was Alderman at large, and of course TR was mayor. And of course we need to introduce also this morning the matriarch, the very youthful Nancy Gallo, who is with us also. Thanks so much for coming today. Please give a warm Chamber of Commerce welcome to our new mayor, Shane Gallo. Shane?
Well, thank you, Ward. Also, I'd like to wish everyone a Happy New Year and thank the Chamber for inviting me to speak before you today, and thank you all for coming. And I hope you all have a good New Year. Basically, when I was sworn in and I gave my speech, I talked about a partnership for a new beginning, essentially to create Kingston as a model city. We know why. We're one of the most unique upstate municipalities, okay, in New York State. We have a beautiful waterfront, a deep water port. We have a historical heritage. We have assets in our people. Local homegrown talent, business professionals, citizens, etc. And I'm very proud to be at this point the city's mayor, okay, because we're truly at a crossroad where we are ready to make Kingston a model city and to have a new beginning for all of us. And to that end, my focus of the administration has been and will be for the next 4 years, restructuring, reinventing government, ensuring that government is transparent and accountable, and that it performs for the taxpayers, be they business or residential. And why do we want to do that in government? Because we want to leverage your tax dollars. We want to hold the line with government spending. And we want to efficiently use those tax dollars to promote Kingston as a model city. And to that end, I have instructed at the first staff meeting for all department heads, which will be a regular activity, if you will, okay, over the next 4 years, at least once or twice a month, where we can share information, where we can coordinate and provide services for the public in an efficient manner. I expected all the department heads to provide me with a report as to their goals, as to what resources they need to obtain their goals, what the mayor could do for them to that end, and to hold accountable those department heads to those goals. Again, why? To ensure that we succeed and become that model city that we know we all can become. Additionally, I am daily reviewing government spending, including but not limited to cell phone policy, including but not limited to time and attendance. And our controller, John Toohey, is doing a marvelous job. He's recommended a number of initiatives with respect to government spending through his auditing process, and his department staff do a marvelous job. And Mr. Toohey has advised that what we should be doing is regularly looking at those government spending. Mr. Toohey has advised what we should have is a strategic plan with respect to our budget and our spending. What we're going to do is to send quarterly notices to the department heads to have them look at their spending to see if they can provide those services more efficiently and by using less tax dollars. We're also going to notify the aldermen, the council persons, and have them weigh in so that when the mayor gets ready to prepare his budget to present to the council, we're not caught like a deer in the headlights. We can address issues possibly of what we're going to cut, what we're going to consolidate, be it with other government agencies. Why? To leverage our tax dollars, to ensure that we're holding the line with spending. You're all business. You're professionals. You pay big taxes. You want government to do those things, and that will be a hallmark of my administration. Additionally, we need to, in other words, just reform the budget process to make it more open and accessible, as I stated earlier, to the council. Because what I've observed in 8 years, okay, being assistant corporation counsel, during the budget cycle, it's clearly dysfunctional. And there's a disconnect between the mayor's budget presented and the role the council plays. So it's imperative that we foster this partnership between the chief executive and the council to that end. We're also going to update our ethics policy, and I'm also going to recommend that we have a whistleblower policy. I think it's imperative that, again, we continue with the transparency that's necessary and what everyone demands these days of their government officials. With respect to our assessor, Dan Baker's doing a marvelous job, and he's pledged as his goal to fairly review assessments to determine if, in fact, they're fair. I've also spoken to him how he can assist businesses expand their business, or businesses who want to start, how they can navigate, unfortunately, the high taxes that are prevalent right now in the city. And ideas like partial assessments, abatements, there's different sections of real property tax law which clearly could be advantageous to new businesses who are trying to attract on a regular basis. Some of you may know that the New York Times has called Kingston the Williamsburg North. We are having an influx of young entrepreneurs and artists and those who are involved in digital and the media, which is quite exciting, and we need to encourage that influx of those young entrepreneurs and artists and those who are involved in the digital corridor along Broadway, where we have Henry Ellenbogen and we have UPAC, clearly anchors and engines for our economic development throughout the city. So the assessor has been very, very willing and ready and able to assist businesses to that end. And why? As I started out, we need to restructure, we need to reinvent, we need to establish transparency, we need to have accountability so that we can leverage your tax dollars, so that we can use them efficiently, so that we can hold the line in spending for all of you. Economic development. What are we doing? Well, those of you may know that we have a comprehensive plan which I believe this week will be evaluated, okay, by the evaluating committee, and they'll assess it with a criteria and then make recommendation as to who the consultant firm shall be to perform the comprehensive plan study. What is that going to do for the city? It'll be a blueprint for its economic future. And what does that mean? Aesthetics, zoning, density, taxes, historical district, all blueprint for the city's economic development. Additionally, what this will do is it will provide the city with a means by which to obtain more grants, grant money from the federal and state government, which is a very competitive process, but without a comprehensive plan, we're actually losing in that competition for very scarce monies available through the grant process from the federal and state government. But we can't lose sight with any economic development focus. We have to also take into account the quality of life, which has been discussed for the past 10 or 11 months by all the candidates and quite a bit by myself, as you all know. And that means that what we have to do is the following. I've coordinated or put together a task force of the Kingston Fire Department's Building and Safety Division, the Police Department, and the Board of Public Works. They are charged with assisting me with restructuring code enforcement and to provide better code enforcement throughout the city, and to also deal with the plethora of social service agencies and groups providing payments to landlords, okay, in this city, and hold everyone more accountable, including the tenants, for that matter, who are causing quite a bit of problems in various parts of the city. And I met with a landlord recently who's in the process of starting an association of landlords, who in effect will be working with the city on issues of code enforcement, their problems with their tenants, and just issues within their various neighborhoods, okay, that they're dealing with. And I think it's a very positive step for the city to have a dialogue, okay, because not all landlords are bad. They're business people like yourself, and they want to do good, and they do contribute to the community. Most of them I know, and I would say that's correct. But this quality of life, we're focusing on the concerns of residents and businesses. We also have to have public safety. We have Chief Kitty, who's done a marvelous job, okay, putting in place a community policing street crimes unit. He's very savvy and understands the role that the SROs in our schools, school resource officers and youth officer are, as to our city's well-being and dealing with youth safety issues. He's also very savvy looking at crime statistics and applying those scarce resources to those hot spots in the city, which provide public safety for all of us. And I'm very pleased he's doing a marvelous job, okay, and he's a great addition to the team that we have, okay, with this quality of life focus that's necessary to address your concerns, to create an environment where people would want to live and work in Kingston. And with respect to, just moving back, our issue of code enforcement, I directed the Building and Safety Division yesterday to proceed with a number of properties. We're going to start with 2 of them that are clearly unsafe and in a dilapidated condition. These buildings are an eyesore in neighborhoods. They're a detriment. They pose the risk of imminent danger, risk of harm to our residents. And we really need to be more proactive with that kind of issue. I'm also going to propose, I've already proposed what's called a rental safety certificate, which is in response to the tragedy on Wall Street, okay, where we're going to try to get into these premises prior to a tenant moving in to be able to inspect and make sure that the code is up to date so that we can avoid those horrible tragedies that occurred, or tragedy that occurred on Wall Street last year when that infant passed away in the fire. But we also want to focus, again, as I said earlier, on tenants who have to be responsible and accountable, okay? Because when we have a good landlord who's a good business person, and they're always in compliance with the code, and they put money back into their property, it's a shame to have that all be offset by a tenant who's not cooperating and acting appropriately, okay, accordingly. So you've got quality of life, which assists with that restructuring, that reinventing. You've got that, okay, for the focus of providing more transparency, more accountability for all of us. Economic development. Well, we have an Office of Economic Development. We're very fortunate to have Steve Finkel there for a long time. And I'm very proud to say that I'm going to continue to work with Steve, and he will continue to work on the projects, okay, that he started over the last 20 years. And Steve's planning and my late brother's vision, we all hold a lot in common. My brother and I would talk a lot about the waterfront when we were kids at my parents' and grandparents' kitchen table. So we were always very focused on the asset of the waterfront. And with Steve's good planning, he's positioned us for us truly to be a model city. And with what's happening around the state, we are poised, okay, to actually make that happen. And it has a lot to do with the waterfront revitalization plan, which precipitated a blueprint and money to develop the waterfront. And by analogy, the same will be the result from our comprehensive plan, as I stated earlier. But what are we going to do? We don't have Finkel anymore. Well, as I stated, we'll continue in the capacity to work with the city. But additionally, what we're going to do is I'm going to restructure the Office of Economic Development to be more focused on grant writing and administrating of grants. What I found, particularly during the budget cycle over the past several years, some department heads will avail themselves of filing a grant application to offset some of their expenses that are incurred, okay, to deliver services for all of us. But that's not consistent, and they need help. And they need help with administering those grants to obtain the spend down. And if we don't have someone administering these grants, then we're not in compliance with the federal or state government agency awarding the grant, which then results in the city losing the grant and possibly having to pay back what has been dispersed to the city. So it's incumbent upon my office to restructure economic development to ensure that we are competitive in a very competitive grant writing process. And the governor, essentially, some of you may know, or probably most of you know in this room, he's established what's called the Consolidated Grant Writing Process, which is actually connected to his Regional Economic Development Council. So it's imperative that we have an individual who understands 3 Ps and connectivity. And the 3 Ps are, you need someone who understands program as to economic development. You need someone who understands the policy behind the program where the grant money is going to be obtained. And you need a connection to people. I'm going to give you an example about what I mean in a second or two. So by having that kind of person maintain the office and be in that process that the governor has established, we're poised to avail the city of potential money that can actually stimulate again, revitalize not only the waterfront, continue all the hard work that's been undertaken over the last 20 years by economic development of the city of Kingston, but also address Midtown, address other issues uptown. And with respect to what do I mean by the 3 Ps and connecting to people, I think Steve is in the process, or he's already done it, of filing another grant application with State Parks and Rec for refurbishing the bathrooms in some of our parks. And for instance, Hasbrook Park is an example, which some of you may probably agree that I'm 52 and probably in over 40 years, those bathrooms, they need a little work, you know, if you've been down there, to say the least. And that's a jewel of a park. It has views of the Hudson Valley. If you haven't been down there, it's unbelievable. It really is a jewel. Just like Rotary Park down in the Hudson as well, which is a jewel. I'd encourage all of you to go down there, with the views of the lighthouse, etc. But this grant, at first we were denied the grant because there was no connectivity to people. And some of you may know, some of you perhaps don't, but Steve and I have had discussions, and those who are part of the land trust here locally, I've had discussions where there is actually a trail in Hasbrook Park that will actually take you to the Rondout, or you could go left, if you will, to AVR's project, and end up going through AVR's project, down by the point, and come back at the Delaware Avenue Business Park. So what my vision in talking to others in the community would be, we're starting to widen the Beale Street this year. Think about it. You start at Beale Street by the Block Park area, you walk around to that beautiful promenade that parallels Mariners, if you know what I'm talking about down the waterfront. You proceed to the Trolley Museum, and I'm in the process with the Trolley Museum and the Land Trust of finalizing an agreement to have the rail trail start at the Trolley Museum, the foot on the strand of Beale Street, and then move up to East Chester by Burger King. And that's kind of exciting, because just think about this now. Kingston then becomes a destination, and that's the focus of a model city. How we can make this city a destination, not only for young artists and young entrepreneurs, but for those who want to move here, for the metro area, okay? And think about this now. You continue, say you don't want to go up to East Chester Street from a downtown area, the waterfront. So you continue, you go past the Steel House, you go out towards the Rotary Park along the rail line. It's my understanding, according to Steve, we very well do have some money for putting a partial walkway that will run parallel with the tracks out to Rotary Park. You stop in Rotary Park, you walk through the park, you go past the point, you get on North Street, and you get on that 1 mile walkway that the AVR project is going to put in. It's kind of exciting because clearly, if you think about it, that makes Kingston a destination. And just like analogous to the walkway over the Hudson, we'll have a walk along the Hudson. And that's exciting if you think about it. And I'm very, very pleased, and I pledge to work to that end to make that happen. And I've already been in discussion with Mr. Perna and the representatives from AVR. And I look forward partnering with Mr. Perna and also reaching out to the county and the state and be part of that consolidated grant writing process and part of that effort to facilitate, okay, that vision to continue revitalizing the waterfront and to ensure that Kingston becomes a destination for those who want to live and work here. Also, with economic development, I'm very pleased, which benefits the city. We received recently a $350,000 grant from the State Division of Home Trust, which will supplement our rehab grants through community development. And essentially what these two programs do is they assist first-time home buyers if they qualify based on their income threshold. And it's kind of exciting because what we can do is take some of the property that is in fact not abandoned but vacant, that could be an eyesore in a community, and we can offer an opportunity to a young couple or a single income individual who would qualify to buy the home and then receive rehab money to be able to rehabilitate the home, putting that property not only back on the tax roll or actually increasing its value, but contributing to the quality of life in that particular neighborhood. And also, too, I'm pleased to announce what I'm going to do is the mayor has the discretion to remove the boundaries or the districts, if you will, that were established for several years, which have prohibited several residents who would have qualified in this city for the community development rehab grant to be able to participate in possibly receiving that grant money. Because as an example, it was ridiculous, in my opinion. The way this money was dispersed, it was depending upon your district or zone where you live. So suffice to say, that would mean on one side of Clinton Avenue, you were eligible for this money, for rehab. On the other side of Clinton Avenue, you weren't. And it was really, as I stated earlier, absurd and ridiculous. So what we're going to do now is that we have the discretion to open up these programs throughout the entire city, which I think is imperative to foster, as I stated earlier, our model city and to improve the quality of life in every neighborhood throughout the city. Also, too, as part of economic development, I'm pleased that we received $125,000 in grant money from the DEC, and essentially another grant for education of our flood problem. Those of you who live or have businesses in wards 1, 3, 5, 9, and down by the waterfront surely understand, okay, the necessity of our city to map and to come up with a flood plan to address just the stormwater and the runoff, which is just infiltrating our sewer system, causing overflow and discharge into the Rondout Creek. And we can't have that. And unfortunately, for years, I was responsible for drafting the MS4 local stormwater law. Up until that point, unfortunately, there was a disconnect with planning and also, development, which contributes to the runoff and the stormwater from various locations throughout the city. So what these grants do is they afford two things. The first grant is after we map and we come up with a plan, we can then file additional application for the infrastructure money to implement that plan. The second piece, the grant money, is to educate everyone as to what the best practices are with respect to dealing with stormwater and runoff, i.e. a rain garden, i.e. a rain barrel. And simple little measures like that, redirecting that runoff from your downspout and away from the city's sewer system or into the road, dramatically reduces that runoff and does have an effect on the flooding throughout different parts of the city. So I'm very pleased that we're actually in the process of mapping and using that grant money for the intended purpose. Again, why? Because it affects our quality of life, which affects what? Our economic development. It affects our vibrancy of the city. And I'm very pleased also, too, that we're in the process with respect to our long-term control plan. We're in the process, we're going to be putting in an overflow at Hasbrook Avenue to deal with those residents every day, the problems that they've had over the last several years, okay, with that part of the city's sewer system, but it also will assist with the AVR development project, okay, by providing connection as well. So it's very important that we continue addressing our city sewer system and capacity, because if we don't, we will not be able to develop economically. And I'm pleased that after a meeting with DEC officials a couple of weeks ago, they're pleased with what our plant operator, Alan Winchell, has done with respect to making a number of changes which ensure that our treatment plant can handle the capacity, okay, from not only our residents, but also from any potential economic development. So, as I stated, economic development and how can we make Kingston a model city? Tourism. I just gave you an example with regard to what we could do with a network of connecting trails and how that makes Kingston a destination. Tourism. Well, you probably all read Mr. Hine and I had negotiated an agreement to consolidate the city's tourist agency with the county, and I'm very pleased that it will provide the city with the means by which to essentially have a Madison Avenue advertising agency to advertise our events, be it radio, be it print, in the metropolitan area. And what's exciting about it too is that it demonstrates a partnership with the county and an acknowledgement that tourism can percolate and start from within Kingston and expand outward. And it clearly is imperative that we do that to be able to leverage our tax dollars and to promote and market Kingston's waterfront, its historical heritage. So I'm very excited as to that consolidation, and I'm going to continue, as I stated earlier, throughout the budget process and prior to ascertain whether or not we can consolidate other services to save tax dollars. As I said, we have an influx of new business artists, those who are involved in the digital media, and as I stated earlier, it's imperative that we market and use the tax dollars that we are spending and leverage them more efficiently to attract more young entrepreneurs, more artists. We need to have a partnership with the influx of those new people for our city's betterment. On Broadway, as I stated earlier, you have UPAC and Henry Ellen Bogan, both anchors for the Midtown Corridor, Digital Artist Corridor's development. And there's already 3 new businesses that have sprung up. 3Bs, there's another cafe down by the Kingston Hospital. I spoke to an individual yesterday who wants to put a jazz club up at the beginning of Broadway. So it's kind of exciting, okay, that there's an interest in Midtown, okay, at this point. I'm pleased to announce, and I'm going to set forth the details within the next week or so, a Business Advisory Council, which will assist the mayor and the city with economic development recommendations, taxes, issues of consolidation of government services, along with government spending. And the council will be made up of members of the chambers, professionals, business people throughout the entire city. I'm very excited about it, and I look forward to working with the chamber and the Business Advisory Council to ensure that Kingston does become economically vibrant, but also a model city that we could all be proud of, and taking advantage of the assets that we have in this city to make it a model city. I also want to use this advisory council with the help of the chamber to help those new businesses work with our assessor, as well as I stated earlier, okay, if there can be any kind of tax relief up front when they're starting their businesses or expanding their businesses. As part of this tourist effort and this quality of life, some of you may have heard we have a movie in the park raffle going on right now, where we're trying to raise funds for a mobile projector and sound system, which is kind of exciting because we're going to bring the movies back down in the waterfront. We're going to bring the movies back in different parks, and we're going to bring the movies all summer to Midtown Center, the Rondout Center, and it's a really neat thing to do, not only for the kids but for the adults as well, and it's a shot for local businesses throughout the area. When people come in and see a movie, okay, and to have a bite to eat, or to go for a drink or what have you, and then watch the movie. So it's a win-win for everyone. I'm very, very happy and pleased. As Jen Fuentes, if you know, if you want to contact her, she's selling raffle tickets probably outside here today. Yeah, we have them in the city clerk's office too. Thank you, Carla. I intend to issue and work in the next few months to issue a request for a proposal for the King's Insight. I think it's incumbent upon my office to try to recoup the $500,000 of tax dollars that we have invested in that parcel right now. We never collected the taxes owed by the prior owner. We also have about $200,000 dumped in that parcel because of the asbestos issue. So you're looking at probably $500,000 of our money that is necessary to recoup with some kind of development at that location. In the interim, what I would propose is I'd like to speak to those at UPAC and perhaps use the parking lot there, if you want to call it that, for parking purposes for their events. I'd also like to use the location perhaps this summer for a block party, festival, show a movie, the Movies in Park series I mentioned earlier. What I'm attempting to do is to try to generate interest in Midtown, which is already starting with these new businesses that are popping up. We have too many vacant storefronts, so we have to get an interest in Midtown, and any way we can do that, we have to do it. I'd also propose, I'm going to look into it, perhaps you could have, without competing with, and I don't want to upset anyone here, we have a great uptown farmers market, but I would like to see if maybe we could do something similar in Midtown without competing or affecting the great work that the Uptown Farmers Market has, and it's really neat. If you haven't been there, it's now indoors at the Old Dutch Church. I think it's a couple times a month, if I'm not mistaken.
First and third.
First and third, thank you, Karen. So I encourage all of you to, as Ward said earlier, shop local. And you do that at the farmers market. Stay in Kingston, shop local. Additionally, I'm going to prepare a request for proposal for the parking garage. We need to put something there to anchor Uptown and stimulate, again, Kingston as a destination, okay, to want to live and work in Kingston. And there's different developers who proposed various projects. By issuing a request for proposal, I think we can step back and review what would be the most beneficial with the Uptown business community's input and other groups' input. I'm very confident that we could all agree on a proposal, a development project, that again will make us a model city. As you can see, there's a theme here, model city. What we have to address in the short term, the parking, as well as the street configuration issues uptown, where the uptown business people do have legitimate cause for concern because they're losing out. It's very competitive in the business world, as we all know, and people will ride right past not realize that it's a one-way street. They have to go around. They don't come back up Wall Street. You know, you'll make that right on Fair Street. You go down, and unfortunately, you won't make a right on Main Street, and then another right on Wall Street, and people are either going to Rhinebeck or they're going up to Woodstock. And we can't have that. We need to market, okay, uptown, midtown, downtown, the waterfront, the historical heritage. We need to use the thruway, as we get off the thruway, the kiosk. We need to try to figure out how we can market that location and provide more information about all the good things to do in Kingston, okay, there as you get off the thruway. And I think we should maybe talk with the county. I spoke with Mr. Hine not so long ago and see if we can get DOT to help us out with some signage, if it's possible, okay, as you get off the thruway. And direct people to uptown, direct people to midtown, direct people to downtown, the waterfront. Again, making Kingston a destination. What have we done, though, recently with economic development? Well, we're in the process of finalizing a $12 million project. The principals, two businesses, Wolftech and Stavo, are in negotiations with the Intretta family for the Colony Liquor site. That's exciting, because I've been told that they're right close, bottom line, okay, with respect to a contract of sale, and the parties are ready to purchase the property. You're talking 100 to 150 jobs, people. Interestingly enough, one of the employers was going south to its other location. We can't have that. The other employer was going to leave Kingston and probably go south. So we're gaining an employer at the site, and we're keeping an employer. And one of those employers, thank God, will be expanding, okay, their production process. These are companies that are high-end, international markets, do a fabulous job with their products, pay their people well with benefits, and I am very pleased that Wolftech and Stavo, if everything goes the way I've been told, we should be okay, and they should be doing business in Kingston. This opens up an opportunity. I was told that there's another manufacturer that would be coming into Kingston on the Foxhole Avenue area, which could result in 14 new manufacturing jobs. I'm in discussion with a soda pop company called Bronx Soda Pop. And some of you may have purchased their product at Adams. This company also imports Italian olive oil and products, and they're interested in putting a distribution center over in Midtown, and that would be 10 jobs, okay, that would be added to the local economy. And their long-term goal would be to change the distribution into literally a bottling of their product, along with bottling of their olive oil. And they are already, with the Italian products, they are importing the olive oil and the cheese and other Italian goodies, and they already have a market in some of the restaurants locally. So between the soda and their other product line, it's an expanding little small business, and let's face it, what makes America tick? Small businesses. Who are most of you? Small businesses. So it's exciting. Those are what we're working on right now in terms of trying to stimulate employment opportunities for the city in the last, well, before I was sworn in the last 24 days. So I've been talking for about 15 minutes, and I hope I didn't go too long. The assemblyman hasn't looked at me. That's good? It's about time? We're good. It's about time right now? Okay. And thank you for your patience. As I stated, our city truly could be and should be a model city. As I stated earlier, between the waterfront and our historical heritage, Kingston has pride. And we're very proud of our city. U.S. Senate met here for the first time, right? Let's refresh our recollection. What else? It was the state's first capital. That's kind of neat. That's special if you think about it. Okay? Those who started this nation, they hung out here. Had a good time, some of them apparently too. But let's face it, I believe, humbly, I do have the skill set, I have the experience to be able to meet these challenges and seize the opportunity, okay, to make this the model city we could all be proud of based on our heritage and our past. Nonetheless, who do I need? Partners. What are all you? Partners. I can't do this alone. Why? Well, we ain't got a lot of money, number one. Number two, we have to be creative. We have to think out of the box. But there's so much homegrown talent here in this room. I look around, and it really is, again, it's humbling. I mean, there's a lot of brain power in this room, people. Even though maybe the black ice might have made you a little dizzy today, according to Mr. Todd. But seriously, I need to tap into this room as a partnership. That includes not only business and professionals and residents, it includes clergy, it includes not-for-profits, it includes citizen groups, it includes volunteers. Volunteers, if need be. Together we can do it. Together we can make this a model city. And why? We're a diverse city. We have a wide variety of people and talent to bring to the table. And I'm proud to be the mayor of such a diverse city with so much opportunity and hope. I'm proud that I was elected by the citizens of Kingston. I'm proud to serve. I'm looking forward to the challenges that we're all going to face as partners. Because if we're not partners, we will not succeed as a model city. So I'd like to thank the Chamber. I'd like to thank all of you for listening to me. I hope I didn't bore too many of you for the past 15 minutes. Not yet, right, Mom? You're looking at your watch, I know. Between the Assemblyman and my mother, thank you. Like bookends. So thank you very much to the Chamber. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Happy New Year, and God bless all of you.
Mayor, thank you all for coming. Have a wonderful, safe day. You'll see you back here in February. Thanks to Ulster Savings again, our sponsor.